It was me, Barry. I'm the one who let the dogs out. Greetings, adventurers, and welcome back to the Den of the Drake. Other dragons hoard gold while I hoard internet cringe. You know, between AI slowly sucking the soul out of the creative industry and the fact that the #1 content on YouTube is just a bunch of talentless hacks stealing other people's content after slapping their face in the corner, really makes you feel like you're watching the death of human culture in real time. And of course, if you know that you got a generation raised by consuming content created by narcissists on the internet, you know they're also not going to be learning lessons that are going to turn them into upstanding members of society. One of the most common lessons taught to these impressionable young minds is that it's not okay to just feel good about yourself for who you are. Oh no, you need to show them all how you're better than everyone else. Enter the Pick-Me Girl. For those who are like me and had no idea what a Pick-Me Girl was until recently, Pick-Me Girls are a new species of attention seeker who exist almost exclusively to get attention from men, often using phrases like, "I'm not like other girls," or "I hang out with guys because I don't like the drama." Because just liking things isn't enough. You gotta communicate how you're better than 50% of the entire population just for liking those things. Much like the self-proclaimed nice guys, they are an ambush hunter, lying in wait for the perfect opportunity to grab on to that acknowledgement from the opposite gender, like they were some kind of weird plant who photosynthesizes attention instead of sunlight. And just like it isn't safe from Weasley men, D&D is not safe from the wrath of the Pick-Me Girl. The story I have for you today stars an aspiring Pick-Me Girl who swears that she is not like other girls because she plays D&D, which, according to my YouTube analytics, is definitely a male-dominated hobby, until she comes across the unthinkable, another girl who also plays D&D. And she'll be damned if she lets something like that slide. Now, without any further delay, let's go ahead and dive right into the horrifying world of r/RPG-Horror-Stories. Enjoy. This week's story comes from Reddit user Game of Burners and is titled, "That Time When the Girl Who Is Not Like Other Girls I Play D&D Met Another Girl Who Also Played D&D. This happened in my college's D&D club back in 2013/2014. Our college's D&D club is entirely male except for one single girl. I know what you're thinking. Oh god, what creepy befell this poor girl? Don't worry, nobody in the club was weird towards her. It isn't that kind of story. In fact, she's the problem player. This girl had a huge, "I'm not like the other girls" energy. For example, her characters were always rebellious noble girls who didn't want to wear dresses and marry. Her usual formula for her characters was abusive father plus unwanted betrothal plus asshole fiance plus running away plus learning to fight all on her own on the streets. She would occasionally mention that she hates dresses and never wanted to have kids. She only ever wore jeans and t-shirts of heavy metal bands. She had her hair dyed blue, had 3 nose piercings, and 4 ear piercings on each ear. Looking back on it now, she acted like she invented alternative punk fashion. The red flags were there, but we never picked up on them because she didn't have another girl in the club to compete with. We shall refer to her from here on out as Arya. I was playing a game with Arya and 3 other people for a party of 5. We were running a fun little homebrew where our party was a group of royals from various countries trying to unite all the nations to fight the big bad evil guy who awoke from his ancient slumber. The game was heavily inspired by Game of Thrones because everyone in the club was obsessed with the series. And this was before the disaster that was Season 8. Arya was playing the youngest princess of the Woodland Kingdom who made a bet with her father that if she defeated the BBEG, she wouldn't have to marry. She played a rogue because it was the most unladylike class for her to play in the narrative of the story. I was playing the third prince of the Northern Kingdom, who was a star druid. The other guy at the table was a paladin crown heir of the Dragon Kingdom. 2 other players had to drop out of the game in session 7 because their coursework was getting too crazy for them to have a social life. The DM decided to bring in another player who he had recently met in one of his classes to fill the vacancy. In our 8th session, we were introduced to a princess of the Western Kingdom. She was played by a girl. This was a problem for Arya. We will call this new player Sansa. Sansa was just as nerdy as everyone else in the club and had an obsession with Game of Thrones just like we did. Because of this, she instantly got along with all of us, especially when she showed up in a blue sundress with her hair styled like Daenerys Targaryen. She was absolutely obsessed with the fashion of the series, and often modeled her looks after Daenerys Targaryen, Cersei Lannister, Sansa Stark, or Marjorie Tyrell. Compared to Arya, Sansa was traditionally feminine. While everyone was talking amicably with Sarah, Arya was acting a little bit distant. Every time Sansa tried to strike up a conversation with Arya, Arya's responses were 1 or 2 words at best. This was rather weird and noticeable because Arya was the type to talk your head off for hours. Sometimes we joked around and told her to remember to breathe as she was talking, but when Arya and Sansa talked to each other, it went something like this. Sansa:
Did you like the new episode?
Arya: Yeah. Sansa:
Wasn't it great when Joffrey started choking? I'm gonna save it as my ringtone.
Arya: Sansa:
And did you see the thorns in Queen Marjorie's wedding dress? Oh, I just love the attention to detail they put in this show.
Arya: Yup. Sansa seemed to be so excited to meet another girl who was into D&D and Game of Thrones just like her, but Arya always seemed like she wanted nothing to do with her. In-game, Sansa volunteered to build a life domain cleric to cover the original cleric's departure. She wore a homebrewed dress of billowing with plated steel woven throughout it, so that she can wear dresses but have it flow away from her feet and legs in combat, so that it wouldn't impede her movement. Basically, she wanted to stay heavily armored while wearing a poofy flowing dress. It was approved instantly by the DM. Arya, out of character, questioned the DM on this homebrew, stating that it bent the rules of D&D a little too much, which was really crazy to have that take at this game's table, because we had really insane homebrew. My Star Druid had homebrewed a spell called Star Strike, which was literally Eldritch Blast but with radiant damage. I had an owlbear pet that functioned like a ranger's companion despite me not multiclassing into ranger. Also, it was made out of stardust and I could fuse with it to become a were-owlbear for 10 minutes, with stats equivalent to a challenge rating 4 beast, and an AC equivalent to heavy plate. The warlock that used to be in our party had a pact with Primus, who gave him metamagic and sorcery points. He had a Modron as his warlock pet and was summoning duodrons and tridrons like a Circle of the Shepherd druid. Arya herself had a cape that turned into bat wings as a bonus action and gave her a flight speed of 25 feet. She also had an invisible dagger that allowed her to do surprise attacks without hiding, so long as the blade was clean, and we ran old school sneak attack crit rules, so her sneak attack damage would be doubled on a crit, making her capable of one-hit killing non-boss enemies every now and then. Our own paladin had a baby metallic red dragon that he could ride because, you know, Targaryen things. Suffice it to say, everyone in the party had horrendously busted homebrews. With all of this in the game, the fact that Arya drew the line at a billowing armored dress was rather baffling. The DM didn't do anything because Sansa's homebrew dress was the most harmless homebrew in the entire game. This would occur multiple times. Every time Sansa asked for homebrew that helped her catch up to our power level, Arya would have concerns about how it was f***ing up the rules, even though everyone at the table was constantly desecrating the rules as written by simply existing. We were all level 8, but our homebrews probably made us like functionally level 12 or higher. We also definitely abused the rule of cool, outright throwing the book away to do awesome shit. One time, Arya threw her Batwing cape to Paladin, who caught it and wore it mid-combat so he could fly alongside his dragon and have an epic final kill on a boss monster. The whole process broke item interaction and attunement rules, but the DM allowed it because the end result would be super epic. But whenever a rule of cool moment happened to Sansa, Arya suddenly became a rules lawyer. There was a moment where Paladin was going to allow Sansa to ride his dragon so that the two of them could do some awesome combo attack. But Arya argued a full 20 minutes on how Paladin's dragon wouldn't allow Sansa to ride it, even though Paladin and DM said that she could for the rule of cool. In fact, the rule that she was arguing over was a homebrew rule that sure as hell did not exist in rules as written. It was the little things like this that happened constantly over the campaign. In combat, whenever Sansa would hang back to support us, Arya would make a backhanded comment about her being the best cheerleader ever, insinuating that she wasn't doing anything. Even then, Arya would often have an issue if Sansa attacked, saying that she was wasting a turn. But it's not like Sansa attacks stupidly. She would set up Bless, make sure everyone wasn't bloodied, and then mostly use cantrips and always made sure that she had spell slots for multiple revivifies. One time, Sansa was the only PC left standing after a Mind Flayer downed the rest of us with a surprise fireball that we all failed the deck save on. She at first used Mass Healing Word to pick us up, but we got downed again by yet another fireball. Sansa saw that she couldn't pick us back up with the Mind Flayer still around. Since the Mind Flayer was bloodied, she fired a higher level guiding bolt and killed it to end the encounter. She then picked us back up with another Mass Healing Word. Now at this point, this was Sansa's greatest combat feat, and we all cheered for her since she saved our asses. Everyone except for Arya. Arya instead pointed out who she thought dealt the most damage and truly contributed to the fight, souring Sansa's moment and everyone else's mood. After that moment, Sansa started to change. When she first joined, she was rather energetic and excitable, but after the Mind Flayer fight, she started to become more quiet, roleplayed less, and didn't take as many notes as before. In the beginning, we chose to ignore Arya's behavior, but when it finally clicked to us that Arya was being a bully and Sansa was too meek to defend herself, we chose to do something about it. I do regret not acting sooner. Okay, so I never actually realized how common this not like other girls thing is until I started looking into it to add context for my commentary here. Apparently, this is like the female equivalent to how a lot of guys will have a nice guy phase that they look back on with utter horror and shame. It's so common that it's even got an acronym. Not like other girls, or NLOG, which, to be honest, sounds like something the incels would have come up with. The fact that this phenomenon is so common actually makes a lot of sense to me. We all know about the billions of stories where the nice guy overcomes some stereotypical alpha male and gets the girl he doesn't deserve in the end. But have you guys ever stopped to consider how many stories feature a tomboy skater chick saving a poor defenseless man from the clutches of a stereotypical bimbo who's just trying to take advantage of him? It's a cliche that's freaking everywhere. In the same way that the message, "just be a nice guy and women will have to fall in love with you," was drilled into the brains of so many impressionable young boys, the message, "oh, if you just like guy things and shit on other women, men will have to fall for you," was drilled into the minds of impressionable young girls. The problem with this mindset is neither the nice guys or the N-logs from media that these people base their personalities around never actually reflect reality. There's a very real possibility that stereotypical alpha male is actually a good provider and kind person. And it's a very real possibility that the feminine blonde bimbo is a fun and smart woman who shares a lot of interests with her man. Both the nice guy and the N-log base their worldview around the idea that they know what's best for their object of affection, more than the object of affection themselves. And I can't think of any scenario where the person who is actively trying to eliminate a person's right to make their own decisions is the good guy. So, bringing this all back to the story. The reason why Arya dislikes Sansa so strongly may seem obvious, but I think it may actually be a bit more complicated than that. Yes, Sansa is likely being interpreted as a challenge to Arya's male attention monopoly, but she's also a challenge to Arya's worldview. Here we see an attractive woman who is traditionally feminine who shares the same nerdy interests. In Arya's mind, this is exactly the kind of girl that she tries her best not to be, because she thinks her male friends would hate this kind of person. But lo and behold, the people with shared interests gravitate towards the person who shares their interests without any regard to her gender or fashion sense. You know, like regular functioning humans tend to do. Since the first ape picked up a stick all those millions of years ago, it's been shown time and time again that if there's one thing that human beings hate more than anything else, it's having their personal worldviews contradicted. And it just so happens that Santa's very existence is a contradiction for Arya. And I got a feeling that she's not gonna handle being called out on her bullshit too well. The tables started to go into a vicious cycle where Arya would be passive-aggressive towards Sansa. Someone would defend Sansa, and Arya would get upset and a little bit meaner the next time. It all crumbled down when Arya killed Sansa's pet lion cub that she was raising with the bullshit reason that it was going to grow up to become deadly and uncontrollable. She was actually arguing that she was preventing a future problem. Thankfully, the DM reversed this act after seeing how much it upset Sansa and how needlessly cruel the action really was. The DM threatened to kick Arya out if she did something like that again. Arya responded with malicious slander. Arya started making up rumors about how Sansa was in other club members' DMs. Now, the rest of this story's information I got secondhand from other club members that weren't part of my table. I never saw the messages that Arya put out, but she basically said that Sansa was sleeping with all of us for better rewards. Like, all of us at the same time. Yeah, she literally said that we were all gangbanging Sansa like some kind of porno for in-game D&D rewards. Nobody believed her because Sansa was way too much of a dork, I say that with love, to even instigate something as innocent as flirting. I think Arya expected everyone in the club to rally up, gather pitchforks, light torches, and kick the accused harlot to the streets based on pure hearsay. But that didn't happen. Instead, the club members told the club president, and the club president took Arya aside and asked her, "Yo, what the f is your deal? Did Sansa do something to you? Why do you hate her so much?" Apparently, Arya answered him with a slut-shaming tirade against Sansa, saying that she was dressing slutty to get the guy's attention, flirting with everyone, pretending to like D&D, and being a fake fan of Game of Thrones. It bothered Arya that us guys couldn't see how fake Sansa was, and that she was f***ing sick of it. This was not true. Sansa's dresses were literally down to her ankles, and she wore a chemise to hide her cleavage that she was constantly pulling up. She gave the vibe that she was a bit insecure with herself, to be honest. She wasn't capable of flirting with anyone because she only ever talked about medieval fantasy dresses or Game of Thrones. She didn't know any other topic of conversation. Anyone who played a game with her can actually tell that she liked D&D, and it was clear that she had played it a shit ton because of her game knowledge. She knew my druid spells better than me. She not only liked Game of Thrones, but she read all the books in A Song of Ice and Fire, the books that the TV show was based on, as well as the supplementary lore by George R.R. Martin like the Dunk and Egg series and Fire and Blood. For some reason, Arya saw Sansa as some stereotypical preppy blonde girl from some bad Disney Channel movie, and not for the massive dweeb that she actually was. Word got around to Sansa, and she expressed that she was going to quit the club because she didn't want to be the center of any drama. The club president told her that she didn't do anything wrong and that she didn't have to leave. The club president told Arya to cut the shit out because it was bullying, and nobody in this club of basement-dwelling geeks were big fans of it. Arya rage quit when she realized that everyone was taking Sansa's side, and another club member took her spot at our table. This whole mess happened years ago, but years later, things got better. I happened to have gotten back in touch with Arya in 2019 after I went on a massive public tirade over Game of Thrones Season 8 on my social media. My post triggered a reunion of the old D&D club members as they all flocked to my page to bitch about the last season. We created a chat room to further air out our grievances with Game of Thrones ending. During this reunion, Arya reunited with Sansa for the first time in years, and get this, Arya actually apologized to her. Arya said that she deeply regrets what she did and cringes heavily over her "I'm not like other girls" phase. She says that whenever she remembers her antics from that point in her life, she convulses from utter shame. She says that she sometimes lays awake at night for hours followers, wishing she had more social awareness during that time. She said that she feels really bad that she tried to bully another woman out of an already male-dominated hobby, and feels awful about pitting two women against each other. Sansa forgave her, shared her own cringy feelings over how she used to walk around in high fantasy clothing all the time, and the both of them had a good laugh. As they chatted, they found out that they both changed careers a year out of college, went back to school, and became nurses. They even practiced in the same field of medicine under the same big medical company, just in different hospitals. To nobody's surprise, they had a lot in common. It's a shame that they missed out on a potentially close friendship earlier. I don't think they hang out in real life, but at least they're internet friends now. I see them on my feed every now and then, complaining about crappy doctors and sharing funny work stories. End of story. Hey, okay, I see you. Who doesn't love a good redemption arc? I mean, low-key, I find myself relating with Arya of all people. Look, it's super common to look back on yourself and ponder who you used to be and the beliefs you held, and coming to the conclusion of, yeah, that guy/gal was kind of a prick. Believe it or not, I can definitely say that about myself. When I was a young buck, I had an unhealthy obsession with bodybuilding and being all hyper-masculine and shit. I unironically referred to myself and my friends as alpha males, which is ironically the most beta and unmasculine thing you can do. Now, I know that all of that came from a deep-rooted insecurity that I was way too young and stupid to even acknowledge existed. And I've learned that strength comes from more than just the literal weight you can pick up and put back down. But looking back at that guy, I would never believe that was me if I wasn't literally there to experience it. So basically what I'm saying is that it's okay to acknowledge that you had phases of your life that you regret, because the most true way to know someone's character is to compare who they are now against who they used to be. So, I don't even want to roast Arya too hard here, because she showed the strength of character necessary to say, hey, I used to be mega cringe, but I decided I would like to not be mega cringe. Sorry for being mega cringe. Which, as a recovering douchebag myself, I think that's pretty cool and I respect that shit. But you know what else is pretty cool and I respect? Fan art! That's right, how about we take a look at this week's Gallery of the Drake? This week's fan art comes from viewer Jazzio Jane, who has depicted the Drake's clever use of the polymorph spell to take on a human form. Look, being a living flamethrower is all well and good, but sometimes you just gotta whip out the old human skin suit to cut a bitch. All right, Larry, you suffered enough abuse. Time to walk right up to that big red bastard and tell him to his face that you quit this stupid job. You just gotta imagine him as like a big, dumb, smelly human or something. Oh no, he's hot! Thank you again, Jazzio June, for submitting your art. If you'd like to see your fan art featured in Gallery of the Drake, be sure to send it to the email in my About section. Fan art is my favorite part of doing YouTube, and it means the world to me that I can inspire artists like you to create artwork like this. With the story over and artwork displayed, we're gonna go ahead and wrap up. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you feel like supporting the channel further, my Patreon and merchandise links are in the description. I would like to thank you all for listening, and I hope to see you next time in the Den of the Drake.